everybody, welcome back to the Monday Afternoon Journal Club. Ed Bouter and Dan Schwester from the Overrun here with you. And Danny, today we are talking about a paper that comes from our friends in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Go Senators. Today we're talking about a paper where they looked at how Bougies impact first pass success in intubation. The things that we like about this paper right off the bat, here we see ratings. The methods that they use are 4 out of 5. The usefulness is 3 out of 5. So this paper isn't necessarily going to be practice changing, but we did want to discuss what they actually found. So Dan, let's talk about this study here. They looked at almost 2,700 patients and whether or not using a Bougie would improve their first pass success.
Yeah. And I think honestly, it's just kind of documenting what we're anecdotally seeing and what we've seen in other studies. Again, it's a meta-analysis. So they're looking at randomized control trials and lumping all the data together. But we've always said that Bougies help in difficult airways. And there is a school of thought that people should be using Bougies with, direct laryngoscopy on almost every airway. And I think there's a lot of, I've always thought there's a lot of validity to that, but nobody ever kind of put the data together for us. But our friends in Canada did, and it seems like they've got good results here. So this is something I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and what they were looking at in this paper was just first pass intubation success. So again, this is another paper that just kind of adds to the dialogue. It adds to the conversation. They didn't look at, outcomes and all that kind of stuff. It was just, does a Bougie actually improve first pass intubation? Now, everyone that listens to the show knows that we love meta-analyses. This paper went to the kind of the extra step, showed the strengths and limitations of this paper, and they put it right out in front of people who are reading it. They also give a bottom line box, which I really like.
Yeah, I love that format. I think it's awesome.
I think it's great. Yeah, like there's always the danger in reading an abstract in a paper, right? Is that it's not going to give you all the information. I like that they're at least making the attempt to put everything kind of up front. So the good parts about this paper, huge number of patients, right? Almost 2,700 patients that were enrolled or that were analyzed in this. Good number of RCTs, 12 out of the 18 studies that were analyzed were randomized control trials. This is the first meta-analysis showing higher rates of first-pass intubation, and they actually, did this search strategy in a comprehensive way. Some of the limitations, and this is what we're going to get into, Dan, hyperangulated video laryngoscopy was excluded. And then they looked at primary outcome was intubation success. It's not patient-centered. They didn't do subgroup analysis. There's a high heterogeneity. There's observational trial. They didn't include the observational trials that they were included might jade the data a little bit. And they didn't include anything with low risk of bias. So again,
I'm not against the exclusion of hyperangulated video laryngoscopy because honestly, I don't really think a Bougie helps you in that. And I think there's other people that would back me up, the people that I listen to, because with a hyperangulated blade, the Bougie tends to go posterior. It doesn't generally go into the glottic opening, and you can have problems if you're not really, really proficient with that. Look, we're all occasional intubators. We are not anesthesiologists. We're not anesthetists. We don't do it as much as we say we do. And I'm glad they got that out of the way because I think that would have skewed the results really in kind of a negative way. But if you're using direct laryngoscopy, I think according to this study, it's pretty clear you should be using a Bougie on every attempt because it works.
And I think that's kind of what this paper was looking to answer, right? And again, in this bottom line box, emergency physicians should consider Bougie use as the first attempt device for endotracheal intubations based on personal and local practice. There is insufficient evidence to support Bougie first tracheal intubations over the standard of care routinely used in Canadian ED settings. So what this paper is saying is that if you're using a hyperangulated blade, if you're using video laryngoscopy, keep doing it. Right? Like it works. And I think that once we moved to VL, the need for a Bougie has kind of slowly gone away, which feels like whiplash, right? Because it feels like 2 years ago, we were talking about like, you need a Bougie for everybody. You got to do that for everybody. And while it has its place, I think this kind of confirms like, all right, so VL is going to be your first thing, right? Because this paper kind of takes that for granted, right? You're going to go video laryngoscopy. It's going to be your first thing to use. If that fails, your next most successful attempt is probably going to be with direct laryngoscopy and a Bougie. Then failing that, you move into what we were doing 15 years ago, direct laryngoscopy with a stylet and whatever else. So I think what we can take from this is even if you're using video laryngoscopy, consider the Bougie. right? This isn't saying that you have to use them for everything, but if you're using video laryngoscopy, your patient might have a difficult airway to begin with, right? So it may be that this also translates to video laryngoscopy. That's not what this paper is looking at. That's not what it's analyzing.
We don't know yet.
But if we're thinking about the preponderance of the data, right? What does this tell us? Where does this lead us? Because this paper exists kind of as a monolith, right? Do Bougies improve first pass success rates? That's it, right? And it adds to that body of literature, which is important. We already kind of know that body of literature, right? That's already kind of out there. So this is a confirmatory step. This came out in November of 2024. So it's good that we're still analyzing this, still kind of confirming all of this, but that we're excluding video laryngoscopy and hyperangulated blades says like, all right, you know what? That's the first thing. We'll accept that, right? Tom Brady and the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. Okay, who's the second best team? Right? It feels like that kind of thing where like, all right, we're already accepting that this is what you're going to do. But if that doesn't work, here's how we increases our chances of success on the second attempt.
Or if you don't have that resource available to you. We're lucky. We work in a shop that gives us hyperangulated video laryngoscopy. We've got direct laryngoscopy. We've got rigid stylets. We've got malleable stylets. We've got Bougies. We've got all the toys. But if you're working in a system or at a shop that DL is your go-to, this paper pretty much makes it clear if you need that first pass success, and we know physiologically most of our patients do, you should be using a Bougie.
And that's a really good point where I think sometimes we also take it for granted that, we have video laryngoscopy, so we have video laryngoscopy. There's plenty of programs throughout the country and throughout the world that don't have VL available to them. So this is, there's a bias here where it's like, all right, you're probably going to use VL first. But this may apply to projects that don't have video laryngoscopy or have low success rates with video laryngoscopy. If I'm a purchaser, right, and I'm trying to make a decision to improve my clinical outcomes, and I have to make the call between, and I'm making up the price points, I don't know them, but let's say it's a $5 Bougie or a $500 video laryngoscope. I know that with this data, I can improve my outcomes. I can improve my first pass success rate by spending $5 on a Bougie over a video scope.
You can always sell that to the suits.
Right? This will save you money. Use this. Let us know what you guys think. Are we still using Bougies? Are we using Bougies for VL, which I think is another really interesting and important point to talk about. Certainly it's something that can help secure an airway and help keep an airway patent. But let us know what you think about this study that's coming out of Toronto. We have more data coming to you every Monday here on the Monday Afternoon Journal Club from the Overrun. Check out our website. Check out all of our podcasts and everywhere that we do all the stuff. And check us out on EMS1 for the Monday Afternoon Journal Club. Ed Bouter, Dan Schwester. We'll talk to you all next week.